I'm glad you're here to listen to wonderful program coming to you. And please don't forget to subscribe or give us thumbs up. Yeah, welcome again to the studio for our Thursday political analysis, Kenyan analysis, and we have Dr. Choti and Benny Muko. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Dr. Man. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, today we are doing just a Kenyan news analysis. What is going on? There are so many things, as you know. The new government is still filling their positions, and they had successfully done about the cabinet secretaries. They chose the 51 principal secretaries, but that one has been halted because of a court. So there is a court order barring that's one of the news. What is your take on the court order that the appointment of principal secretaries did not take into consideration with gender and the regional balancing? Dr. Choti, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think the court order was a vote decision and in the right direction. But I think sometimes for the country to move forward, there are certain areas I think Kenyans require some patience and the positive thoughts, because the issue of implementing the requirements, the constitutional requirements to the latter, I can see is having some issues and challenges all over. What would county governments, the way the county governors are appointing their officers, go to anywhere in Kenya, in Africa, this requirement of 50% in terms of gender and regional balancing is becoming problematic. And there may be other factors that may not be easily overcome. And I think we may require to think positively, objectively, so that we do not hinder government functioning. I mean, the functioning of the government and operations of government programs. So therefore, I want to think that sooner than later, the executive, the judiciary, and other organs of government will find a way, because this might be a long-term thing to achieve. It may not be easily achievable because we have so many competing interests. Sometimes you find that the president has so many people who supported him. Probably you may find that out of, if we ask 200 people who are very strongly for him and want appointments, you may find that out of those 200, maybe there are about 40 women. So even in that category alone, there is no balance, gender balance. So the president, people may criticize the appointing authority, but realistically, some things you cannot achieve them just at once like that. Some things are there is constitutionalism is not is an ideal kind of situation. There's an ideal kind of situation, but practically there are certain issues and challenges that I think need to be appreciated. So I'm not saying that we don't achieve constitutional requirements, but again, we need to exercise some tolerance and understand the environment under which the constitution is being operationalized.
Thank you, Ben.
That's my take.
Ben, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree what Professor is talking about. But remember, the Constitution is very clear. The first term, there was a leeway of giving it 50 that, next time we'll do it better. This time, I think the president has to wake up that, no, it is going to be very hard because that is in the Constitution. That's where we had just Nyachai for implementation purposes. The first term, because of the 2010, it was very hard to implement these things in one term. Then they were saying, oh, next time we will be able to implement almost everything. As Professor is saying, it's not very easy to do in a shorter term. But the Constitution says that. So the president has to do something to make sure to convince the country that this is the way forward.
So you think like now the most thing is that I think there were PSs from where they took in particular that from the Kalenjin community, 13 of them, and from the Gikuyu community, 13, which makes 26, which is more than 50%. And the rest of as they were talking about the rest of the Tiniki tribe took so the two communities took the lion's share. Is that fair? Is that balancing?
I think that one he made a very serious mistake. And even before elections, you remember the president or the vice president had the same problem. It was brought out that, most of the people he chose was from his community. But we gave him a benefit of that. Now he's a president. He should widen his base to make sure that his inclusivity is taken care of. But he didn't do it. So that's why the professor and Dr. Ali, I'm saying that it will be very hard for the president to convince the country that he has done a very good job.
Yeah, I think I want to agree with the Muko, the appointment, especially in regard to regional balancing. I think we Kenyans are questioning that, and I think it's correctly. That's important. I think the president has to be more sensitive.
Yeah,
he has to be more sensitive, especially to regional balancing, because we don't want a situation where two communities, two ethnic groups take a lion's share of government positions while the rest of the country is watching. I think that one is not acceptable. And I think Kenyans have protested, and I think the president is listening. For instance, recently, you remember the appointment of secretaries, permanent secretaries, or principal secretaries. It appears that the two ethnic communities took almost 70%.
As you can see there, Kalenjin 13, Kikuyu 13, Luya 6, Kamba 4, Somali 8, Luo 2, Pokoti 1, Masai 1, Meru 1, Kosi 1, and Turkana 1. Quite.
This is quite not very fair. It's not fair, and I think the president has to find a way to make this correction. For instance, how do we explain the missing of the Kisii community? Actually, when you look at the Kenyan groups, communities in terms of population, the Kisii are among the top 5, if I'm not wrong, or top 6. But they're missing from there, and that is, I think this message should reach the president. There's no doubt about it, and we want to be honest and to be objective. There is no way this 13 slots going to Kalenjin Kikuyu. To me, he should have given them around 8, 7. To me, I mean. I'm a political scientist, and I teach young people.
Probably was it went more like the big voting pattern they were having. If you can see Kenya Kwanza government really had more votes. It looks like that is where they were compensated well for that.
But again, when we talk to people, especially even Kalenjins, especially where I live here, I have so many Kalenjins here. I interact with so many Gikuyus in my region here. most of the Kenyans who live in this part of the world, the part of USA, that is the Baltimore, Washington region, the Kenyan population here is almost 90% Mount Kenya residents.
Yeah.
And I deal with them on a daily basis. Even they don't agree with this kind of pattern, this kind of appointment. Even those who were favored, actually, honestly, they say no. There's no need of doing what he did. They were in okay with 8, so that the rest of can go to other communities in the country. Because our main objective is to unify the country and create a nation. You know, there's no way you can create a nation like Tanzania, for instance. There's no way people can think as Kenyans if they feel that the sharing of resources is not equal.
It's not equal.
You see that?
Yeah.
Usually, government policies can either inspire the building of a nation or destroy a nation. Because for people to be patriotic, for a person to be patriotic and love his country, there must be a sense of fairness and a sense of also getting your fair share of the national resources. You cannot tell me to sing that, oh, I'm proud to be Kenyan, when you know that when it comes to sharing of resources, you are not on the table.
Exactly.
So
that's true.
When nationalism and patriotism, you don't command them so that you achieve them through commands. It is policy. It is fairness. It is justice. It is equality. It is equity in terms of resource sharing. There's no shortcut.
Okay.
And I think sometimes I blame people who are very close to the president. Sometimes the president needs minds like what we are talking here now. Mr. President, Kenyans want not only fairness and justice, but to see it. To perceive it.
Yes, somebody has to walk the talk. That's true. Now there is also another news which is going on. This withdrawal of cases, and one of it I saw, the one involving it looks like the deputy president had many cases. Now there is one in particular where the Ministry of Lands come to defend DP Gachagua in the plot dispute of 1.5 billion. This is the land he bought, and it was in dispute. But now, even the ministry, the lands ministry, they are now saying that the other person was the one having an illegal title. And this question, I bring it here. Is it coercion, or what do you say about Kenya's civil service? Because why didn't they stand when it was a different regime that now they are coming up? Ben, what is your take on that? Are they being coerced, the civil service?
It is technical, as last time we talked about it, and we said, can we have a commission to investigate some of these things? Then we know the truth. We can only just speculate here, but we can only guess what's coming out, because you never know. The government comes out. Some people are very smart, so they operate on a thin line so that they don't fall into into a victim. So, Professor. So what happens is people are very careful when they are civil servants. So we talked about it. We said, can we have a commission? Because when the president came in, he was very open. He said, I will be very open, and I will be the president of those who voted for me and those who didn't vote for me. And I will be transparent. Every sector will be independent. He started very well. He said judiciary will be independent, the government will be independent, and the executive. And he separated even the things which were an OP, the force. He said, okay, you guys, you have to have your own budget. That's wonderful. But when these things comes in of corruption or the things that they did, they should be transparent. Let's have a commission and tell us exactly what's going on.
Okay, Dr. George.
Yeah, I think Omandi, as I have said, the best principle, democratic principles, require accountability.
Yeah.
The accountability should not be only seen, I mean, is something that even the population are able to see what is happening. Now, unfortunately, we don't have facts. We do not have facts. I remember there was a time when Gachagua, the current vice president in the former government, there was a time when he could be arrested every Friday and released on Monday.
Exactly. Yeah, I surely.
Now, is that how judiciaries operate?
No.
I mean, now Gachagua is vice president now. But again, can he also turn tables and they start now using the judiciary because he's vice president against whatever? No. We as citizens, what we cry for, what we yearn for is a fair and a just system where the law applies equally. But the problem in Kenya, not only in Kenya, is Africa, even world over. Those in power sometimes they bend the law to favor their interests. Usually, you saw what Trump was doing when he was president, and even now you have seen his declaring presidency when there are so many cases aligned against him. But by even declaring that he's running for president, he wants now the public to perceive those cases behind him that they are being politically motivated. So politicians tend to play cards like that. But in Kenya, I think sometimes they think that the citizenry is stupid or they're fools, which I think is not good. We want a law which is transparent, which is fair, and which treats Kenyans equally. But again, when are we going to achieve that? Because you remember the former system. You remember there was a Ruaraka land case. I don't know if you remember the Ruaraka land case where government land was sold to the government again.
Yeah.
You see that? And on an emergency basis, even the money which was paid was actually transferred from other departments. That case was dealt with expressly. And then where did it go? Where did that case go?
We don't know where it went.
Who is accusing the other? To me, we should stop this kind of games. It doesn't matter who is in power or which party is in power. What we want is the rule of law. And without the rule of law, I think Kenyans are in trouble.
Yeah, but that's one of the areas
that's the problem.
We want a civil service, which is beyond that. Actually, the government of the day, like in the US, they fear more than the government which is out, because even accusing finger is on the government. You don't want that, because the Mwananchi puts that on us. Now, I think you read about austerity measures. The new government has put austerity measures, has put a ban on travel. They are trying to cut on expense. Do you think that is going to have a good impact on the economy? What's your take on that? That officers now traveling, you saw they had cut almost 75% of the government expenses in various sections. What's your take on that?
I think.
Okay, you can go, Dr.
But I think, of course, we must accept that the government is facing a very critical financial crisis. Inflation is a problem. Corruption is a problem. So the Kenyan economy is in a very bad shape. Very bad shape. And we don't know what is going to happen, but the measures they have put in place, I mean, I don't know how far they will help the situation, but I don't envy the current government, the president and the finance minister. They have a problem. It's a very serious problem. And remember, most of the revenue generated in Kenya, most of it goes to the wage bill. Almost 70% goes to meet the salaries of civil servants. And we have a very expanded civil service. When you go to the devolution, to the counties, and then to make matters worse, corruption has refused to go.
Yeah. And on top of that, Daktari, to ask you, one of the things Kenya is having is we are having a scarcity of foreign exchange reserves right now, because many investors are running away from Kenya, and a big reason they are not investing in Kenya.
Daktari, I can add something on the traveling. I can say the president, I think, is doing well, because even on that particular issue, remember Magufuli, he had many people traveling, the government spending a lot of money. The budget is too high. They were even saying, if I don't travel, this money will go back. So doing that, I think anything you can do to save money and cut costs, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, but one of the things also we are having is there is investors are running away from Kenya. Why is that? Because
but Dr. Omandi, let us be honest. There are so many factors which can explain the issue of investors leaving the country. I'm not an economist, but I know for a country or an environment to attract investors and retain, to attract and retain investors, there are certain conditions which must be in place. You must deliberately create conditions which are favorable to investors, whether they are foreigners, even local. One is what we have been discussing, the rule of law, security. Are the people safe? Are they safe to do their businesses? Because when you are doing business, you want to make profits. But again, you don't have to worry about whether you are safe, because you understand what is happening in Nairobi today, especially in the recent days. Again, people want good infrastructure in terms of communication, in terms of transport, roads, wherever. Number 3, investors want to be assured that their investments will. There's this issue of security I mentioned, the issue of infrastructure, and also the tax regime. People calculate how much are they going to make, what gains are they going to make, because when you overtax people, when you overtax businesses, that's a problem. And even the issue of labor. So too many factors, and Kenya at the moment, I think we are not doing very well, especially in issues the rule of law, in terms of security. People are not assured, and mostly, and also in terms of infrastructure. When you don't have these factors in place, it becomes expensive to run a business. And when people run businesses to make money and they make profits, if the business does not make profit, why should you keep it?
Yeah. And again, to what the professor said, insecurity is a very, very big issue in terms of attracting the investors. Like now, you saw people keeping killed everywhere in Kenya, in Nairobi streets. Until the governor was saying this is too much, we are going to do something. They have not done anything that convincing the investors that the country is safe. The people are being killed and robbed in the country, like at the time of Kibaki when he started. Again, politically, it's not stable, because you saw when they went outside the country, and Raila was there, and he was invited, but the president didn't invite him. It was like, these guys, are they working together? So what's the image politically? Are we stable? Is anything coming? Investors will not invest if the political we are not stable. Another one is taxes. If you don't give initiative to investors, like now in South Africa, they were saying if you come to invest in us, there is no taxes for the next 5 years, so that the country will benefit. Tourism. If these things are not in place, people will run away. Investors will not come.
Okay, good. Well, and another topic we have is about the CDF. You know, CDF was in August, it was kicked off, the Constituent Development Fund. And now, the news I read is that the Treasury says is waiting 80 billion on Constituent Fund, that they are ready to disperse the money after they get update from, advice from the Attorney General. Why would they go against the court ruling that CDF is illegal?
But I think, Dr. Mande, I think cases can always be argued in courts. Court decisions can be challenged on a higher court, and it can be a ruling can be overturned. It can be contested. I think that's within the constitutional framework. So, to me, on a principle, any money that is devolved from the national government to the grassroots, that is a good principle. I support it. Whether mechanisms and the transparency and accountability, those are secondary. But anything that takes money away from Nairobi to Kisii, to Bobasi, where I come from, to my village, that is a good thing. And I think the government should find a way and make sure that the CDF is properly anchored in the law.
Okay.
If there are any issues, or what we want, because this is.
But it was found unlawful.
Let me tell you, man. The CDF initiative was implemented under Kibaki's regime, and it surprised many Kenyans, because initially Kenyans did not know whether we could afford that kind of a program where could the government get the money. Remember, during Moi's time, Moi owned all of the money, and the Kenyans were asking questions: how can each member of parliament be given money to and use it to develop their places? But Kibaki was an excellent economist, and I think he did very well. I'm talking about the principle, the idea, the concept of CDF. It should be protected, regardless of the ruling. We should find a way to keep that program up, about, and it should continue.
You know, the court is the one which interprets the law. Parliament can make the law, but it is interpreted by the court. And the court interpreted and found it unlawful. So that act, the CDF Act, is as good as dead unless they bring another one. But the MPs want to go with it. Are they not violating the court order? Yes.
There's something I want to say here. You see, we have this problem because of our MPs who were there before, who were greedy. Kibaki government, they gave us CDF, and they gave a modalities that which could have been adapted in parliament. They refused because they thought that it will control this money. They thought they would be there and they have this CDF forever. They could have factored it. It was supposed to be factored in the constitution, and they give them modalities on how it's going to be used. They refused. They all say, just mention it in the constitution, let it be like that. Now it is hard for the courts. It was not adopted by parliament. Now parliamentarians who are there now, they are saying, okay, we are not going to pass the supplementary budget until it's released. So the president who is there right now knows the problem because he was there. These guys, they were there, they could not pass it because they wanted to have this money. And that's why when he was campaigning, he said, I know, when I get there, we will solve the problem. CDF is there. That's what he mentioned, because he knows the problem. Now, if they have a problem to factor it in the constitution, because it didn't go through parliament.
But do we start violating the court orders because of political expedience? That is a good question.
As Professor said, there is something we call principle. Because what Kibaki did, it was on principle and let it continue because this money helps the local people. It is a good thing.
Actually, you are not answering my question. You are trying to avoid. I want you to visit. This was a court order. Do they go against the court order? That's my question. It's not whether it is right or wrong, but the court found it.
I think, Dr. Mandi, what I'm saying is the parliament should find a way to legalize, to make the necessary amendments. I don't know what is required so that this idea, the concept, because it's good, it should continue. Actually, to me, we should not be talking whether CDF is necessary or not, even regardless of this TC legal existence, because it's a good idea to take money to the grassroots. Probably we should be talking about accountability to make it more effective and entrench it more in favor of public good or for the interest of the masses. Because, as I said earlier, any idea of moving the resources from Nairobi to the village, that is a good thing, especially in Africa, because this money is at the national level. Normally, they are squandered by a few people. So, but if they can go, they can be dispersed to their constituencies and used properly. That is something we should all support.
And again, Secretary, to answer your question, we have to discover, to find out what's the problem before we solve it. You see, these people who are governors, they were MPs before. You see, now they want to be the governor's office to control CDF. You see, it is hard because it was supposed to be MP's constitution.
There is a constituency. No, there is a committee which is actually managing CDF. There is a CDF committee.
Yeah.
But this is where the MP intervenes and chooses his arrangement.
And
then he can influence things. For sure, it was the way it was arranged. The MPs are supposed to provide oversight. But they don't provide oversight. They actually manage, even they decide who they give as a contractor. And most of these MPs who were elected, they used the money they had promised the people who funded their campaigns that I would give you contracts through CDF and other things. Now they are trying to force it, but before election, the court found CDF
unconstitutional.
So it's not in the constitution.
Yeah.
Actually, let Parliament revisit the whole thing. Let it be anchored. Let CDF be anchored in law, and also clearly define the role of the MPs to the CDF idea. Oversighting in Kenya is problematic. I don't know how far. I thought the new government was going to be able to bring certain changes, transformations in how oversight works. Because in Kenya, people conspire. Those who are supposed to oversight again are the players. They are partners of those whom they are supposed to watch. you see that?
That brings us to another question. Really, let us face our members of parliament and any person who has, and I know Dr. George, you have run in the election in Kenya. The electorate the Kenyan electorate has become very expensive. Sometimes I wonder, even some of the politicians, the money they spend, if you calculate really even the salary they are going to earn, they spend more than what they can earn in the whole term in office.
Yeah.
So that's why I think most of them have become what we call political entrepreneurs. They have become entrepreneurs, political entrepreneurs, in that you get the power to get influence, to get contracts, to do these and the dealings of getting some funding from the government. And surely, if you take these things out of them, Dr. They are not, they will be miserable people. I think we need to fix this somewhere. Kenya is on a wrong trajectory on that.
Of course, there's no doubt about that, because some of these political seats like parliament, even being an MCA, being a governor, being a senator, it is very expensive.
It is
very expensive. And most people, they take loans. People borrow a lot of money to make sure they succeed. And the voters want handouts.
Yeah.
It's like they sell their votes. And usually, at the end of the day, they do not elect a person based on merit and the competency and record, or in terms of performance. That's not common in Kenya, particularly. It depends on how much the candidate gives out as handouts. You buy votes. Now, when these people get into office, they want to recover financially.
Yeah.
So they look for loopholes. That's why you saw even the senators. Actually, they want also to have their own CDL.
Some oversight. That's why MCS want what they call it.
And then
development.
Let me finish, Dr. Then the Senate, they earn salary. They are paid for the work they do. They are paid handsomely. Now it's like they don't see that. Now they want more funds in the similar to CDF, because they also want additional income, and this is because of the financial pressure in which they are. But look, this you people, you are in the US. Me, where I live, I'm in Washington DC. I'm a neighbor to the Congress, the American Congress, where the senators and the congressmen meet. Let me tell you, these people, the American congressmen, they don't earn a lot of money. And some of them in this year, they don't even afford a residential house where to stay. Most of them, they sleep in offices. They have mattresses, mobile ones. People spend in single rooms. A senator lives in a single room in DC. And some of them, they are even roommates. Because the money they make does not allow them to afford a luxurious lifestyle here in Washington, D.C. They don't. You talk to some of them. Some of them, they use public transport on their way to the Capitol Hill. And they love it. And they love it. Remember the current president, when he used to operate from Delaware, when he was a senator down here. He used to use the train, public train.
On a train, yeah.
But now, compare them to a Kenyan, a governor, member of parliament, or something. When you meet a governor here in Maryland, recently I was in a party. Maryland elected a black governor recently. For the first time. They made history. I'm very proud to be in this state of Maryland. We elected almost everyone is a black. Even the Attorney General is a black. So even everyone, I'm surrounded by black leaders. I happen to be, I was involved somehow in the campaign for one of the candidates. So I attended a party inauguration. The party, they call it the watching party when the votes were being counted. And I was addressed by the new governor. Let me tell you, these people don't make a lot. They don't go to those services to make money. They go there to serve people.
They go there to serve people.
And they believe in service to the people, to the voters. When you find a governor here in the streets of Washington, D.C., they drive in one car. Sometimes they drive themselves. But go to county towns in Kenya and they see the entourage.
But Dr. Choti, there is one thing you are forgetting. That these people, even if they don't earn money, they don't use money, a lot of money in their campaign. The voters themselves give them money. That's one area you are also forgetting.
Now, what I'm forgetting, what I want now, Kenya, we should borrow ideas from others. Let us find a way to make our campaigns less expensive. I remember I ran for public office one time. I wanted to be parliamentarian in Bobasi. That was 2007. I had saved a little money when I was doing my studies here. So I went there with a lot of good ideas. I had ideas and they were good. And the people received them very well. I think you are aware, man. I had a very good agenda. But I spent everything there. But when the day came, that party nomination alone, my name was deleted from the ballot in the middle of the night. That was the end of the story. After spending all of the resources you had. That is, we operate in an environment which is very exploitative, an environment which supports conmanship, an environment which is not fair, which is not just.
Do you blame politicians of Kenya? They are already, when they come there, they are already beaten too.
Yeah, you see, that's a very good topic we are talking about. Dr. Oman, you remember when we were campaigning here in Brooklyn Park?
Yeah.
The mayor hands $2,000.
Yeah.
$2,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a council member, he hands 850. When I was campaigning, there were some, I remember, who asked me, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
Yeah.
Because you are giving a service. And if you are campaigning, people give you money to get the papers and go around. The only thing you do, you give service, then you can be able to, your name can be able to go out there and you are known. That is the most important. So if we can go translate this to Kenya, it's a high-yield task. But if we succeed, it's a good thing. Super PAC goes to the president and stuff. But in Kenya, you can be able to campaign and people give you money to use the gas and everything. It's not big. It can't be very expensive, but you can serve people. One person did it. Remember in Bogetutu, Anyona could not give money to people. It's you guys are going to fight for it.
That time Anyona also see. I think since we started multi-party and then the 500 note, you remember during 1992 election?
Yes.
That is actually where Kenyan politics went high notch with money.
Yeah.
People never used to. Okay, they used to give handout, but not much.
Anyway, let us accept that as one of the problems facing our country. And unfortunately, the leadership now, it's very difficult for this problem to be addressed by the leaders whom we have elected, because they know the system favors them. That's why they're looking for ways, loopholes. That's why the senators now want their CDF.
Even the MCs want the development fund where they can also put some of the problems.
We have a problem in that country. And there's a book I was reading here, and I think I showed you this book one time. I like this book. This is a book from Third World to First World by Lee Kuan Yew. This is the person who transformed the economy of Singapore. In the 1960s, Singapore's economy was at the same level with Kenya. We were in the same category.
Yeah.
We were in the same group.
I remember we were even doing an examination.
Actually, we were even, yes, I remember our economy had even a greater potential than Singapore. Countries like South Korea, countries like Indonesia.
Even Kenya gave South Korea alone. You remember? Kenya gave South Korea alone.
Now, we even Malaysia, I mean, these are economies now almost joining the first world. These are during the first one. They have won much better. But again, when will Kenya pick up? That's the question. Leave alone resembling this Singapore, but even picking up. When are we going to do that? But can you do that? Because what happened in Singapore, I wish Kenyan leaders can read some of these books. The most important thing is to minimize corruption. Even not
corruption.
Number two, put in place a climate which favors and promotes investment.
Yeah, investors.
Dr. Joti, is good that you rain away. If you stay in Kenya and go to the system, you're going to be talking this. if you could have gotten away and you joined the club in the table eating with them, you would be saying, like now many people would be dismissing you, saying he's talking hot air. The reality is that they're underground eating. But anyway, our time is
before we end. You know why? What makes me feel bad is the people who have come here. Alfred Mutua, I think he came here. Even Uhuru was in America. People who know the system, how it works very well. Most and all of them joins.
But one thing I've never understood, for instance, most of course I agree, some of the Kenyan leaders went through the American system.
Yes.
Like Uhuru went to a university in America, but that university has never talked anything. Even when he became president of Kenya, usually American universities, when one of the alumni becomes a leader in any country in the world, they congratulate that person and celebrate that person. But I've not seen that American university congratulating Uhuru. So
let us not go to Gachawa.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, this Dr. Mandi, Africans, we have a way we do our stuff.
Corruption.
Africans have a way of even not being. I mean, you don't know where even our leaders are coming from. Who knows? Omandi, you don't know.
Yeah.
So, like now, if you look at the regime of Uhuru Kenyatta, anyway, he's 10 years in the country.
Now let us talk about the new government. Let us talk about
this one. We are going to judge them. Let us give them
no,
their time.
People in power now.
I'm talking of the 10 years we have just wasted. We have to be very careful.
That's what
this one also we have given.
Like that, we don't want it to go in the rear mirror, because if we start, of course, we learn from history, but let us be objective. This is our country. It doesn't matter. Everybody's going, even us, we have contributed where this country is. Like this issue we are talking about, how we are electing our leaders. Sure, if we continue on this route, I don't see a problem why leaders have to.
I have a message. I have a message to Ruto, President Ruto. Let him start thinking like Kennedy, the former president of the United States, who said, "What can we do for the country, not what the country can do for us?" If that goes, everybody, so that we can sacrifice, that American sacrificed to build this country. They sacrificed. You are given a cement. 6 packs, you are using 3, you sell 3, and the road just goes. Let the corruption, all of us individually sacrifice.
When Amuko recently, I went to Kenya. There's a small road which connects Nyamache, Woba's constituency, Nyamache and Nyangusu. There's a new road, it's a tarmac road which has been put in place recently. I was home recently and I appreciate it because we have been sometimes we could not, during rainy season, I can't access my home from Nyangusu or Nyamache in the past. But I thank the government for what they have done. But the quality of the road, the quality of the road, I don't think whether it can last even for 2 years.
You see,
gentlemen, our time is over.
But remember, the point I wanted to say is the money which is allocated to construct the road in Kenya. Sometimes you wonder even whether half of that money was used on that road.
Thank you, gentlemen.